Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name's Dalia, and today we're back on Grim Isle doing another speed build. If you guys saw my last video, we made a abandoned library using my museum. It is a sunken library. Look how great it looks. I'm obsessed with how it turned out. But we're continuing this build and kind of doing like an attachment, and today we're making a school. If you guys know anything about this island, you will know that it is a medieval abandoned witchy island, and you have to have a magic school on a witchy island. So that's what we're doing. Let's head over to the area we're going to be decorating today, and I can kind of show you. So this is the sunken library. They're not directly connected. There is like a section. You can't get to them from each other, but like, yeah, anyway, this is where we're building. We're building on the third tier level, directly behind my marketplace. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more videos from me. We're getting so close to 10k, so thank you guys so much for all of the new subscribers. It means the absolute world to me. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started with today's video, and I hope you guys enjoy. So one thing we unfortunately have to do is build up the cliffs. I do have 2 levels of cliffs we have to build up. I am not going to bore you guys with terraforming today. If it was more complicated terraforming that required like me showcasing how I did it, I would include it, but it's literally just building up the cliffs and putting them in a square. So we're gonna do that really quickly. Now the only idea I had for this school is that, unlike the abandoned library, this is going to be an area that looks a lot more put together. A lot of my island is very cluttered and messy because it's meant to be a very abandoned island, like I've explained. So this area, along with a couple of areas I've decorated, are a little more structured. They're a little more organized, I guess I would say, a little less messy, and the school is going to be one of those areas. So here is the cliff fully built up. Like I said, I promised I would not bore you guys with terraforming, but now we're going to place some pathing down. I'm going to have the front of the school be designed with the distressed moss pathing I've been using on my island so far. It's this mossy brown or grayish green stone. I love how it looks up against the more distressed castle items and the medieval building sides, which is why it's like the primarily main path I'm using on this island. I took a moment just to stop to put an item down so I can decide where I'm going to be placing the entrance to the school itself. This is going to be an interactive school, so I'm not like creating a building that you can't access. I wanted to actually create a classroom. So it's really just like the castle items are going to be the walls, and then I'll be placing the actual classroom inside of the school. I debated doing like a very big elaborate school, but I wanted it to be something a little more walkable, a little smaller, a little more cozy, because it's it's a small school, it's a small group of students. Like, we have a very small group of people living on the island, so it just made more sense to me to just have it be tinier. Maybe one day I'll do a bigger build like that, where I make more of a perspective bigger building, but I wanted this to be a lot more lived in. So after I place this pathing down, I kind of like to skip through me placing it, because it's a lot of trial and error, because this path is placed down rather sporadically, because it's meant to be very cracked stone, as if over time the stone has fallen apart because there's been no upkeep. So after I place that down, we're going to put a couple trees. I've already put the hardwood tree on the other side, mainly just because I had these trees already in my inventory, and if I didn't put the trees down now, I probably would have forgotten to place trees at all in this build, because I was so focused on the interior build of the school. But yeah, I placed the trees down, and then I'll be moving on to working on the actual school. Now, I will be honest, the layout of the cliff, I really did not measure how it was going to be laid out. So I'm placing down now the interior flooring. This is flooring I've been using on the areas on my island that are a little more structured, a lot more less like not the abandoned areas on the island. So far I've used this pathing around my plaza, in my market, which is directly below this area, and now my school. So I'm placing the perimeter around, which is kind of like this beige like stone tile, and then at the center of the area I have this kind of like brick cobblestone. So after I place that down, we're going to be moving to placing down the castle. And like I just mentioned, I did not plan out the placement of the building items. I went off the size of my marketplace below to build up this third cliff, and I wasn't gonna have anything else on this cliff beside the school, so I wasn't being too picky about how much space I had. I just wanted to make sure it was more of a rectangular shape so I could make a big enough classroom that you could walk around in but still place tons of items down. So as I'm placing this pathing down, I'm starting to think of like how I wanted to place the castle items down. I wanted to use the castle towers on the corners of each of the 4 corners of the rectangle, and then I was going to place a like kind of like back and forth use of the castle walls and the medieval building sides. I really wanted to make sure to use the medieval building sides because they have a window in between the brick, which is I wanted like natural lighting to come through like the fake building. So here is this like kind of like zigzag checkered, is that what we want to call it, like a checkered kind of pattern design. I've used this path on a couple of my islands so far. There's a lot of variations in it that include a lot of like leaf designs, which I've used on a couple of other areas on the island so far. But because this is an interior build, I decided to leave it as is and just use the basic version of it. So my problem with the placement of the building is that it was not lining up with the inclines I had. So I actually took a day or two break from this build. I think a 2-day break, just because I was getting frustrated with the placement. I couldn't get the castle gate to line up perfectly in the middle of the 2 inclines I had here, and it was making it really frustrating because I couldn't get the other castle items to work on either side. But when I was thinking about it the other day, like I think yesterday before I decided to come back to this build, I kind of figured out the path, like not the path, like the correct way of sectioning off this area. I did have to cut the cliff it's on by 1 space to make this work, and I decided to use 2 castle gates instead of 1 and to put a castle wall in between. I don't cut any of this clip down just because I want you to be able to see how I place all the items in case you wanted to recreate this for yourself. Obviously it's a very basic placement and it just worked best for the layout that I had. Also, I love that Maple's hanging out with us while we were building. I thought that was very cute. So that is the placement of the building items at the front of the building. I used all variations of the castle items as well as medieval building sides. And then for the back area here, I really wanted to just give a lot of natural lighting. And I didn't want to have to go like back and forth with the castle walls and the medieval building sides, so I just used medieval building sides face the opposite way so it would look as if it's like an interior build. And I love how the light passes through like the window on the medieval building sides. I just really like how, I don't know, it makes it look a lot more like it's an actual building. Obviously we don't have a roof on the building, but we have flooring and we have walls. So
we so rich. Why we can't afford no ceiling?
As long as it doesn't rain, we should be fine. And then in the corners, I'm just going to place the castle walls just to kind of contrast what I did at the back with using only the medieval building sides. So I'm just praying that the castle walls all fit and that there was no gap. Thankfully, I did manage to fit all 3 castle walls up against the side of the towers without there being a gap. And then I'm just doing the same thing on the other side with the castle walls. Do you guys have any idea how many castle items I've used on this island so far?
600.
What?
I don't even want to think about it. Like, thank God for treasure islands, because if I had to pay for these... Like, remember when the 2.0 update came out and we saw how expensive the castle items were? Like 200,000 bells each. Like, I can't afford that in this economy. Like, Animal Crossing economy or real life economy. Like, I don't got those type of money. So, moving on to the front of the area, once again, I do kind of go back and forth between decorating inside the school and outside. I'm just placing a couple of ruined arches. One thing I forgot to place is spooky lanterns on the top of those from the end of the video. I'm gonna have to go back and do that because I like adding some lighting on the tops of the ruined cliffs, and I don't know, I think it looks really good. And I did actually get rid of the construction thing, so I was wearing my little wig. I love how my character kind of looks like they're like a character at like a fancy little magic school. It's just like, it's a vibe, you know? So I started placing like, you know, your traditional like school items. I kind of mimicked what I did with the library by placing a bunch of the wooden bookcases in like the darker brown color. I also placed the chalkboard. I was originally going to use like the smaller, like one individual chalkboard, but then I remember that this chalkboard exists and I love that it's in like the dark brown color, so that's the one I chose to go with. And when I was deciding how to place the tables, I couldn't decide what table to use. I was debating using the school tables, but they look too modern, and this is meant to be a medieval island, so you're not supposed to have like any modern technology, any modern looking furniture. So I decided to go with the project tables. They look rustic enough that they work. I was between this and like the ranch items. I still think it could use the ranch item. It's a good alternative, but I like how the dark wood complements like the wooden bookcases. I was going for like dark wood for this entire build, so everything looks cohesive. You know what I mean? So now I'm placing items down. This is meant to be a magic school, even though this is meant to be like a hidden magic school, so you're not supposed to technically know that the villagers are witches, but I had to include some suspicious cauldrons. Like, I couldn't not include them. And then I'm including a bunch of other more like mystical looking items. And then at the front of the building, I remembered that I wanted to place plated armor, so I just quickly went back and placed those down. And then I'm just kind of throwing items down sporadically on the desks. I didn't want each desk to look the same, so I'm using different variations of the book items, as well as some like essay sets I'm going to throw down, some additional books. And then I'll be doing something very similar to what I did on my library, and I'll be placing some scattered papers on the floor, a couple of dropped book items. It's not going to be like messy like my library book, like my library video was. That is meant to be like chaotic and very messy. This is a lot more structured, but at the same time I wanted it still to match what I did at the library, so I did throw a couple of like miscellaneous, more messy like things throughout the course of the video. So now I'm placing another cauldron. I wanted to use the chemistry set, whatever that set is called. So I placed another project table on the side here, and then I used the lab experiment set. Once again, I know I said that I wasn't using like modern day technology, but like think like Harry Potter, think like any like magic, like lab experimenty type of thing you've ever seen. Like there's beakers, like that's the kind of vibe. And I turned it on its side so you really can't see like I was gonna use like the microscopes, and that seemed too modern day to me, but I still felt like the lab experiment site was still like rustic enough that it kind of worked. And I loved how I placed it next to like the cauldron, so it looks like someone is off on the side like making a potion. I don't know, I like the vibe of it. I thought it looked really good. So I'm just placing the wooden stools down as the chairs for the desks. I was gonna probably use like a different kind of chair. I think I was gonna use the ranch chairs originally, but I liked how the low height of the wooden stools didn't take away from the desks. I'm trying to be very mindful of height, especially for this build, considering it's like an indoor space. And then I'm placing the dropped items like I said I did. And then really just kind of finishing up the space with a couple of miscellaneous items, trying to like make the area feel very full but still very walkable. All of my builds are walkable and accessible to walk through, which is something big I always try to focus on for my islands. And then I was essentially done with the schools. I was just finishing up decorating the exterior and just matching what I've been doing on this island so far. So I placed some wheat fields, a couple of giant vines, piles of leaves, really just making it feel very overgrown. I have been using all variations of the wheat field colors just because I feel like all the variations of the wheat field work very well for the fall time, because you're in that transitional period when the leaves are changing and everything's like an array of color, so I feel like it worked pretty well. I also placed some like glowing moss and regular like weeds and stuff too, and then a couple of spooky items. I always almost forget to place spooky items down just because it's not something you think about building with, but I've been using spooky items throughout my whole island so far, so it's kind of like hilarious that I always forget to decorate with them. But I'm just kind of throwing them down randomly just to add a little bit more, like, I don't know, items to the space. And then I didn't decorate the cliffs around the area. I'm gonna have to go back and fill them up with like weeds and flowers and stuff, but I did want to place a couple of vines along the edges of the cliffs, and I'm trying to decide if I want to adjust the layout of this area a little bit so I can make an incline going down to the library from the school. Towards the end of building this island, if I have enough inclines left, I might do that. But for right now, we're just gonna leave it as is. They're not builds that are meant to be together, they're just meant to be side by side. So that's just essentially, that's like on the back burner for now, just depending on how many inclines I have left, because I think I've used a little over half of the inclines I have available. And even though this island is filling up really quickly, I still do have a few builds left to make, and I want to make sure I have the inclines available to make as many builds as I want, you know. So after placing a couple of dropped items down, I'm just filling in the rest of the space with some custom designs. I do go back later on and place a couple of what are they called, shrubs and flowers, but I didn't have any on me at the time and I didn't even think about it. But when you see the walkthrough at the end, they'll both be there. So just to fill in this area in the middle right there, I also placed a couple of simple panels with that like door looking pattern. And that is all. So we quickly time travel to later on in the day. I'm still debating between setting my dream address to this time of day or to a little later around like more dusk as opposed to like sunset. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, but without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed the final walkthrough. Alright, that is everything for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I had so much fun making this build and it turned out exactly how I pictured it, which is always a treat to experience. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!